Hello everyone, welcome to our channel called the Korean Poet Society. My name is Joanna, one of the creators of this channel. Today I'm going to talk about a poem called Until the Peonies Bloom by poet Kim Young-nang. I'm going to talk about three things regarding this poem. The first thing is about this poem, what this poem means, and what the author was trying to deliver through this poem. The second one is about the poem Kim Young-nang. Kim Young-nang had a very short life, but he had a lot of other works regarding his artistic world, and some of it reflected our Korean history, so it's interesting to see it. And thirdly, I'm going to talk about Korean flowers regarding this poem, such as the Peonies that I'm going to talk about, and azalea flowers, which represents a lot of Korean culture and appears in many of Korean literature. So I hope you enjoy!
모란이 피기까지는 김영랑. 모란이 피기까지는 나는 아직 나의 봄을 기다리고 있을 테요. 모란이 뚝뚝 떨어져 버린 날 나는 비로소 봄을 여인 설움에 담길 테요. 5월 어느 날 그 하루 무덥던 날 떨어져 누운 꽃잎마저 시들어 버리고는 천지의 모란은 자취도 없어지고 뻗쳐오르던 내 보람은 서운케 무너졌느니 모란이 지고 말면 그뿐 내 하늘은 다 가고 말아 360날 한양 섭섭해 우음내라 모란이 피기까지는 나는 아직 기다리고 있을 테요 찬란한 슬픔의 봄을.
So, did you guys enjoy the poem? Now I'm going to talk about the first thing, what this poem means. This poem talks about peonies. This picture is of a peony. It's an interesting flower and it looks very extravagant, I guess. And it's interesting to see this flower because it has many colors and it looks very beautiful. In this poem, the author, the speaker, is talking about the blooming and withering of this flower during the season of spring. In this poem, peony represents the hope for the speaker to live and the rush of happiness, and also the subject that gives him sadness. So it's kind of like paradoxical because the peonies gives not only happiness of seeing this beautiful flower, but also it gives a kind of sadness in one's mind because one knows that it would wither eventually. So it has a kind of a paradoxical meaning. So it's interesting to see this interesting meaning in one poem. Secondly, I'm going to talk about the author Kim Young-nang. He was born in 1903 and passed away during the Korean Civil War in 1950s. He wrote many poems, and most of his poems during his earlier years, he wrote about nature and the cycle of life. And he wondered what real beauty is and talked about the real meaning of beauty. But he didn't actually relate his poems to the current issue where Japanese invasion was happening, and he didn't like to talk about these realistic issues in his poems and in his earlier years. But after about 1930s, he started working with subjects about Korean independence, and he wrote 독을 품다, which is also about Korean independence. He was actually kind of somewhat an active independence worker because he participated in some big independence movements, and He's reckoned to be one of the independence working poets. Thirdly, I'm going to talk about flowers. We have two particular flowers that have appeared in a lot of Korean literature. The first one is of Peonies. This one is a picture of one, and this is called Boran in Korean. So this represents wealth, and it's very a gorgeous color. So it also represents the king. So in Korean history and in literature, this flower appears in many of them. And secondly, I'm going to talk about azalea flowers, which are called tsundale in Korea. They represent kind of a mixed emotion of unique Korean emotion called han. So this han is a mixture of sadness, guilt, and love. So it is very unique and it appears in many of Korean literature. Okay, everybody, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and learned more about Korean culture and this poem. And I hope you got to enjoy Korean literature more. Anyway, I'm now going to end this video by concluding that if you enjoyed this video, please click subscribe and like button so that we could share more of our interesting literature to you guys. Thank you for listening to our video.